So here we are, sharing secrets of the soil with me, your host, Regen Ray. Hello, soil lovers, and welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Soil. I'm your host, Regen Ray, and today I'm very excited to talk to our guest who has launched the Farmer's Footprint here in Australia. And if you're in the regen space, you would have known what the Farmer's Footprints are doing. But Blair, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Ray. Good to be here, buddy.
Excellent. So share with our soil lovers a little bit more about what Farmer's Footprint's all about. I've been watching it unfold in the US and super excited that it's now finally here in Australia.
Yeah, we're super excited as well. We just launched last Friday, which was a beautiful night with amazing souls in one room. In essence, Farmer's Footprint's here to give voice to our Australian regenerative food story. So we want to be storytellers on the pathway to a healthier food system. And of course, soil lovers will know it all starts with the soil.
Ooh, it sure does.
Well, when I say giving voice, to unpack a little bit of that means that being storytellers, we want to amplify the movement as it is in Australia. We already have some amazing wisdom keepers, educators and farmers out there doing amazing work and have done for a long period of time. So we want to tell that story. We also want to give voice to the challenges and roadblocks that we see in a food transition pathway. And in process of that, engaging consumers, stakeholders and farmers on the journey, because it needs to be a co-creative one and a unified one. And I know you well into that, Ray, and you've been doing great work already in just bringing the movement together and having wonderful conversations about what the future looks like if we dream it up together.
Absolutely. What a beautiful future we are dreaming together. And I keep saying I can throw in mud and some of it's sticking, and some of it's been impactful, but it's all about keeping that narrative moving forward. You mentioned about the food story. What has happened here in Australia with the food story? Like why, do you feel like it's broken? Have we hit a tipping point? I'm assuming it is because we're starting this Farmer's Footprint to capture the amazing successful stories, but what kind of went wrong?
It's a big question to ask. And is it broken? Is it by design? There's lots of theories out there, but I think one of the errors we made in our food story in Australia was commodifying what is the fuel for humans to exist on Earth. As soon as that becomes something becomes a commodity, then it's ruled by profit and profitability and production, and we lose the essence of where our food comes from and supporting all the structures that bring about nutrient density and preserving our water cycles, our carbon cycles, ensuring that our soil is rich in biodiversity and biology so it can produce food that is of value for us to eat. It's essentially sustaining us on the planet. And I think that was probably the biggest step we made outside working with nature, but working against it. And at the foundation of this, I think that's where our opportunity lies is coming back to understanding and embracing and embodying that we are part of nature and not separate from it. Unfortunately, too many decisions are made from a outside perspective where we work against nature, where we make decisions as nature, as a commodity. So bringing that back and listening again to the Indigenous stories and the song lines of this country, and I think is going to be a really important one for us when we move forward. And I know again that this is nothing new to you and probably the soil lovers, but we as Farmer's Footprint want to engage everyone on this journey, and storytelling, we think, is the richest and most potent form of doing that.
Yeah, awesome. And can you give an example of some of these storytelling, maybe do you have any whiteboards or storyboards of some of these stories that you're planning to capture, and what's some of the positive content that people can start looking forward to that's going to stream out of Farmer's Footprint?
I think as a blueprint, you guys can have a look at the US site. They have been telling some wonderful stories of farmers, stakeholders that have been moving and shaking in the regenerative space for a long time. I don't want to give away too much of what we're going to be doing, but what I can tell everyone is that we're in the process of just completing our impact reel, and what that looks like is in 2 to 3 minutes telling the nation who we are, why we're here, and what we're doing. We've been filming for a couple of weeks across New South Wales and Victoria, capturing some of the luminaries and wisdom keepers and national treasures in the regenerative movement. I won't tell you who. I'll again keep everyone waiting. But we look towards releasing that in June nationally, which can certainly give everyone a great idea of who we are and why we're here.
That sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to hear who these are. We are Secrets of the Soil, so we always, love a little secret dropped here and there. But I think it's amazing to be able to capture these stories and share them, because one of the things I find is people get really inspired by what other people are doing. So it's not just talking the talk, but it's also walking the walk, and getting out there and meeting these farmers and hearing their stories, and really just seeing how beautiful they can grow food and reducing chemicals and making food really nutrient dense. You spoke about it becoming a commodity and all about profit. What, in your opinion, needs to be a success metric in this space? How do people know they're doing a good job? Is it taste? Is it nutrition? Is it yields? Is it profit? How do we get away from that commodity thing and start seeing food as a different thing than just profit and yield?
I think, my vision's always been, if your profitability is a byproduct of doing great work and working with, and in this case, nature, of course. We sort of see those key measures as nutrient density, water, healthy organic matter in the soil, which of course increases our water retention potential, mitigates some of the challenges that we have on the ground in Australia at the moment. Increasing biodiversity, always a key component of increasing landscape function. And I think with those measurables in hand, what we bring to a consumer is a better story, a better outcome, and better health. And this is food. It's key to our survival. And we need to start personally taking responsibility for where our food comes from and what we ingest in our bodies. That we've given away, unfortunately, that opportunity or that responsibility to potentially companies and corporations. We need to bring that back and start really engaging in what it is we eat and where it is that our food comes from. And there's such a rich tapestry of amazing farmers across the nation which want to engage in that story and share that story. And they love, that direct connection to their consumers.
I love that, taking responsibility and knowing where the food's coming from, being more connected to that story, and being a conscious consumer is what I kind of say as well. Is being aware. It's okay sometimes if you have to buy the food that's not the best, if it's circumstantial, because I think sometimes we can slap on the wrist too much and people feel like they've got to hide what they're doing. And I think everyone's doing the best they can. We've got supermarkets filled with food. We've been trained that you go to the supermarket to buy your food. We're just all kind of doing the best we can. And I think we need to give ourselves credit where credit is due. But this new opening of conversation and starting to ask better questions and, I love saying dig deeper into this wonderful world of soil and health and food and nutrition, and then start making more conscious decisions. Are you finding more people are starting to ask better questions and move into this narrative naturally, or is it out of crisis, or say like the pandemic or potential food collapse? Do we need to get to a crisis point, or are there people being proactive and seeking this out naturally?
I think it's a mix of the above, but to just attend to what you said previous to that, I think is really important and beautiful. Our ethos is progress over perfection. And that resides really at the heart of how we want to engage. I'm not really into making judgments on farmers, humans, consumers. On what's important is the trajectory of where they want to go with whether it's their engagement to food or their farming methodologies. Anyone on a trajectory to do better and build relationship to their land, we want to be sitting at their table. We want to be having conversations with them, want to be holding their hand through that process. So I think that resounds hugely in how we want to engage with the community out there is progress over perfection. Let's get rid of the dogma. Let's get rid of the judgment. This has to be a journey, a unified journey. And as soon as we start making any judgment calls or starting to introduce a dogmatic system of engagement, then we divide. And we've had enough of that we've seen enough of that and lived enough of that over the last couple of years, I think, to know that it is a disservice to our human potential and our co-creative potential. To answer your question about how do we see that people are engaging or can engage, have been engaging in the movement, I think there's been a big shift over the last couple of years where people have had not only the opportunity but seen the need for potentially localised food systems. So we have some form of local food security / sovereignty. It's seen a lot of people start to build their own gardens at home, maybe because they've had more time and haven't been able to go anywhere. But the beauty, the silver lining in all these crisis situations and cataclysms, and we've just had another one up here with the recent floods, is we get back to the basics. We get back to what we as humans are important, whether that's just Maslow's hierarchy of needs of food, water, shelter, community. I think that there's been a big shift across the board where people start to value a little bit more of where their food comes from and their engagement with that, and also where their community comes from and how we start to re-engage with ourselves and each other.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think the biodiversity of people is a big part of this food system as well, and growing, farmers and shoppers and consumers have always done it alone, but now you've got all these like co-ops where you can go together, or farmers markets, you're coming together, you're meeting, you're hearing different stories. Someone's talking about art, someone's talking about marketing, and you're solving problems together. It's a real beautiful space to kind of hang out and see that co-creation happen and unfold. It doesn't happen in the supermarket aisles with self-checkout and wearing your headphones, listening to your own playlist, So, I definitely feel like that trend is changing. We've spoken a little bit about the word regenerative and like healing the planet. What does the word regenerative mean to you?
That's a really big question. And it's a term that I'm always conscious of using, because so many of these terms, like the word sustainable, has kind of been a big word for globally and used for the good and for bad. I always consider when I use the word sustainable as if someone was to ask you, how's your relationship going with your said partner? And you were to return serve to me and say, oh, it's great, it's sustainable. I'd be like, geez, I'm sorry about that. So to look at what regenerative is, it means what we're doing is increasing our engagement, increasing our potential. This is not just regenerative in a farming sense. It's like we're realising our potential as humans, engaged humans and part of nature, where we sort of get out of the way a little bit and from a farming sensibility, it's ensuring that we're leaving a piece of land in better shape than it was when we first arrived, in a simplistic form, encompassing a healthier biodiversity, healthier water cycles, healthier carbon cycles, and healthier people that reside on that space. Yeah, it's a big word, and I know she's already been co-opted, and I'm kind of already searching for a new one. And I often say in my lexicon is just, what is our pathway to better food systems or healthier food systems? So I don't make the mistake of overusing a term that could be used for, the the dark side.
I agree. And that's the reason why I ask that question to a lot of guests, is because I want people to hear that there's a mixed way of answers, and we don't want to define it so it fits into a into a little box, don't want to pigeonhole it. And I think it's really ironic that the word healthy also spells like heal thy, so it's like healthy soil. It's like heal thy soil, healthy food, heal thy food, and I think there's a lot of clues in the way that words are put together and their meaning. And, I think regenerative will kind of get replaced with like just healing food, healing systems, healing people, and unfortunately you can't use that word a lot in marketing and things. You can't claim to heal or cure and things like that. But I think we all want to be healthy. We want to heal our soul, whatever that means at our own personal individual level. And so I want to get a little bit more of an understanding of like what you were doing before coming into Farmers Footprints. Like, how have you fell into this space of, soil, food, and everything that you're doing at Farmers Footprint and storytelling?
I don't think we have enough time to go into depth, so I'll try and keep it really concise. From my upbringing, I grew up next to in southeast, the suburbs of Melbourne, and we had a massive park called Valley Reserve that our house backed onto. So that was always my connection point. It was always my escape point when I was in trouble. It was always my adventure space. So that connection I've been really lucky to have throughout my life, and that's seen me do a diploma in horticulture, have my permaculture love, and do a PDC. Somehow I've always been connected to where and how we grow our food, and that connection to nature. I've been involved in farming projects across the globe and also back here at home. It's always been part of my existence, but sometimes I've been very far and distant from it because I've done photography and production and restaurants. And again, probably the seed with restaurateuring and being involved in that was the service of food and the delivery of food, and always interested in where we procure food from. So that thread's been always alive throughout my many different iterations of self. And it found its home, and has finally, to my relief, probably found its home with Farmers Footprint, because there's that beautiful time when your purpose and your passion come together. And this has been the realization of that. I was fortunate enough to, interestingly enough, be pinged by two different people on the same day about 2 years ago. Someone sent me a podcast to listen to with this guy called Zach Bush on, and sent me a video of me to watch from this crew called Farmers Footprint. Listening to both on the same day was a beautiful moment where I thought really resonated with the story, with the actions these guys were taking. I reached out, and we've been in relationship since then, to finally see the fruition of Farmers Footprint Australia birth last Friday. So it's a good question to ask. It's very, very much in my ether at the moment of how we got here and why we're here.
Nostalgic. I love that. Soil lovers, you're hanging out with Blair and Ray. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I want to dig a little bit deeper about your little statement that you put in your bio about being a jack of all trades. That resonates a lot with me. Soil lovers, stick with us. Hello, soil lovers. I hope you're enjoying today's guest and this podcast, but I wanted to just let you know that when you get excited about soil, just as you're hearing about our guests, then you will want to check out the Soil Learning Centre. The Soil Learning Centre is a hub that we put together and digitalized all the content over the years that were originally on DVD into this online learning experience. So if any of our guests or any of the topics that we speak about during the podcast whet your appetite, and you want to get your hands dirtier and dig deeper and get educated around different things around soil, whether it be biodynamics, permaculture, whether it be using a microscope, or whether it just be hanging out with other like-minded educators, mentors, and facilitators, then the Soil Learning Centre is a place for you to hang out and dig deeper. That's the soillearningcentre.com. We have lots of different programs, courses, and even a membership. So if you want to belong to a community of other soil lovers, then that's the place to hang out. Well, until we meet again, enjoy the rest of this podcast. Back to the program. Welcome back, soil lovers. You're hanging out with Blair Beattie and Regen Ray. We're talking about soil and farmers' footprints and telling stories. But in your bio, you said you're a jack of all trades, finding your purpose in the regenerative story, which I think is just a beautiful way of encapsulating it. I love being a generalist and a jack of all trades too. Do you feel like that's a superpower that's like shoved away because everyone's telling you to find a niche and be a specialist and go deep in one thing? And what does jack of all trades mean to you, and how does that help with the regenerative movement?
I love you've just said that, like giving value to us people, which tend to be vagabonds and getabouts and not really find our true, whatever that is, and stick with it. I've always been one for experience. I've always been one for what's the next project and where am I heading, and that's been very much a heart-centered adventure rather than a head-centered adventure. My passion has never been the accumulation of wealth. My passion has been the experience of wealth. And I think through that process, you become a jack of all trades, because I've had to apply my non-existent trades in various modalities across the globe. As I said, from doing gardening and restaurants to envisioning and landscape design, to photography and production, to fashion. These have all been things that I've been involved with. The one thread that has tied that together has been connection to food, connection to nature, and finally realising just maybe I might be happy doing one thing for a while. I doubt that very much, but I know that this the birthing of Farmers Footprint will realise a new thing for me, where I think there's been a melding of all those skill sets that I've been able to pick up along the way. My photography will help us deliver stories. My network and ability to curate events and hold space will be another asset that I can bring to the table for Farmers Footprint. And my knowledge of the need for diversity of perspective will, I think, set a tone for Farmers Footprint to be listening a lot and conversing a lot. So whatever actions we take are appropriate and for the moment and for our cause.
Amazing. From one generalist to another. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, my friend.
I think there is a beautifulness of like knowing how to overlap many I always say it's lots of circles, and there's this Venn diagram, and then there's that sweet spot in the middle. And yes, it might be hectic and some people don't understand how to understand it. But for someone like myself, and the way that you explained it, I definitely have a lot of empathy and can resonate with that. And I want to give people permission to be a generalist, and be a jack of all trades, and embrace the fact that sometimes you don't know how these dots join. You go from one industry to another, and you look at my LinkedIn and you'll see that, you say, how did you go from this to that? But there's a common vein, and you don't see that until you zoom out, look back and go, there's that vein. And that kind of makes sense, and permission to be a generalist is always something that I like to advocate. So when I saw that in your bio, I was like, yes, and probably one of the reasons why we, started chatting and had good conversations on the phone and stuff as well before the interview.
I think what sits behind a generalist is trust. Because I've never been worried about where I go and what I do. I've always trusted that I will find my way and find my place. And again, that's a very heart-centered endeavour, and I feel privileged to still trust process, to still trust that I am here. I'm embodying this meat suit for this short amount of time, and I'm here for a human experience. And I trust wherever that takes me. And I think you and myself and the others that can resonate with this, with what we're saying here, is there's some brevity, and we need to give ourselves there's some courage into doing that. I'll never be confined, and I will kick and scream if I feel as if I am.
I can relate. And others around me will probably say, yes, Ray's like that as well. So I definitely agree on that. And I think, just allowing people to know that it's okay to be that. And I think sometimes even in relationships, like having to be very blessed at being with others that support that kind of method. Like, not get a job, do one thing, do it well, stay at the same career, which is fine if that's the way you tick, but it's about knowing thyself, really knowing how you operate, and not everyone needs to be generalist, so let's be real with that. When we're chatting and in your bio, you've kind of mentioned that you get dirty and get healthy. What's that mean? Like, how do you get dirty and get healthy? Like, can you expand that and unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the one that speaks to this most in our network is the good man, Dr. Zach Bush, is our connection between the microbiome in the soil and the microbiomes in our own intestinal tract and gut tract. Like
Yep.
getting dirty allows us to be exposed to all that complexity and that beauty that sits beneath the soil, the microbes, the nematodes, everything that we need to secure our own personal health is available to us any day when we walk out and get our hands dirty and start breathing in the biome. And what I see with changing our growing practices and allowing that biology to thrive again is building back that relationship of our identity and our connection to what lies below the earth. And I know you soil lovers, speak in spades about rekindling this connection between human health and soil health. And if we look at transitioning our food system, one of the byproducts of that is us being able to access that again. Unfortunately, the chemicals that we use don't help the biology and the diversity under the ground. Some of our methodologies and current practices won't help support and sustain that beautiful complexity under the earth. And we, as humans that have had a relationship to that for so long, are missing that in our what we eat and also our direct connection to it. So that's why I'm always keen to get out there, and especially in new places that I might visit, is get dirty, get it under my fingernails, experience it, touch it. And energetically, of course, that experience of earthing back to the earth that's another opening up a can of worms potentially, but it's having that energetic exchange with the earth directly is also super important in our robust health and longevity.
Being connected at one with it all, seeing it as a whole, not just many parts, but it zooms out and as a whole. And I think, that's it always amazes me that we know more about space and, the deep oceans than what we know about what's literally, millimeters below our feet. And I'm very, refreshed that there is more research. And I know Dr. Zach Bush has done amazing work to move that narrative forward and creating more research and curiosity around linking the gut biome to the soil biome. And, our pathway to that is through what we eat. And that kind of cliche saying of like, you are what you eat, taking it to that next level, so if you're eating vegetables, like what did your vegetables eat? Well, they've only got access to the biology in the soil. If you're eating meat, what did that meat eat? And, the quality of what that meat is eating then gets transferred to the quality that we're eating and then goes into our gut biome. And then the links between gut biome and mental health, taking that other level step around that. So I think there's a lot more to research around that, but I'm excited that there are more people talking about this and making it more mainstream and the narrative that we want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kudos. Aho.
Yeah. Love it, love it. Do you get to spend much time with Dr. Zach Bush being in the Farmer's Footprint? Because he plays a big part in it as well, right?
He was a co-founder. I spend more time with another amazing human, a gentleman called David Leon, who is a co-founder of Farmer's Footprint in the States. He's executive director and is extremely hands-on in the charity over there. I always enjoy engagement with Zach. I had a great chat with him and Charles Massey recently, which we have shared to some of the people that came to our launch. I'm happy to make that available to the soil lovers in your network. I had a great chat with him post floods as well, because that was a massive time for the Northern Rivers and still is to this day. So I'll always enjoy that form of engagement. There's not enough of it because he's a super busy human at the moment. But the whole team of Farmers Footprint in the US are super valuable human resources that are doing great things on the planet. So there's a rich tapestry of beautiful humans involved. Again, and our team that we've developed here are from all walks of life and have all various skill sets. But again, as soil biology needs diversity, so does the human story.
Absolutely. And so we've been talking a lot about, and I think it's awesome that you get to rub shoulders with some of these amazing change makers and thought leaders. And, you know, that's all about hanging out in the right room with the right people, and people listening to the podcast get to experience that through us as well. So, you know, I love the fact that you're in those inner circles, I guess, but then making the information publicly available so we can all hear what's going on and sharing the stories and those, you know, drops. And I'd love you to share that interview because, you know, love to make that available. And so I want to hear it too. So, but so we've got these soil lovers who are listening to this podcast. They kind of get it. They're like, yes, we want a, you know, better future for our food. What's something that people can do like in their own backyard, or something that they can, you know, take away today, whether they be a farmer or a consumer buying food? What's some like kind of quick wins that people can do? Is it a better question they can ask? Is it, you know, an action that they can, you know, do tomorrow that helps them step into that more, you know, doing progress rather than perfection?
I think quick actions for any consumer is to meet thy farmer, to maybe stop or just try going to your local farmers market and engaging in that space and starting relationships with guys that actually grow. We're a little bit disconnected from our food system. We walk into a supermarket and there's lots of lights and there's music, and you're kind of brainwashed into the story there. And when we start taking responsibility with the food we ingest in our bodies, building relationships to the guys that grow that, there's a beauty in that relationship again. And then maybe we get inspired to start looking at growing our own food or our own herbs, subject to where we are. It's amazing what a small amount of land can produce over season to season. They're the two quick actions. It's like get a herb tub, or just start that process. Ignite yourself in picking food. That the most sovereign act we can have as human beings is to go out and pick our own food, without doubt, without fail. So they're two really quick, easy actions for anyone to start engaging in our new food economy.
I love that. Very quick and easy ways. I think going to a farmer's market and even, you know, growing some food. One of the things that happened during COVID was people started growing food. Seeds ran out really quickly, just as quick as toilet paper. And people were failing to grow carrots. They were failing to get their parsley to grow. And I think that was a good thing because it made everyone realize, gosh, growing food is so hard. How the hell are they selling a bag of 10 carrots for, you know, $1.50, you know, when I can't even grow it in my backyard, you know? So as much, you know, I think that's the realization that we need to get more accustomed to, that this is, you know, extremely difficult work to do it in a controlled environment in your backyard. Imagine what's happening now with floods and fires and drought and COVID and shutdown of logistics and no access to inputs. Like, it's mayhem out there. And, you know, food sovereignty and being able to like pick a leaf, even if it's a mint leaf, that's one less pressure onto the system, you know, and mint grows very well. Almost a weed if it's not controlled. So, you know, there's lots of quick wins, but meeting the farmer, I think that is a great know thy farmer. I think you referred to it as, and I think that's a great movement. I've always been a big advocate of like scanning QR codes and watching like the farm story on the packaging, you know, on your phone. Even if it is in a supermarket, at least we can bridge that gap and then go, oh, now I want to go and meet that farmer. You know, and most of the regenerative farmers will happily invite you onto their property because they've got nothing to hide. If anything, they want to be so proud about how they're doing things. And so if they're not going to let you on the property, maybe there should be, you know, a question like, why am I not allowed? You know, oh, biosecurity. Yeah, but why? Like, you know, what are you hiding here? You know, so I love that. Get out there and meet and farmers markets are popping up everywhere, you know, so that's a fun place to hang out. I wanted to just get a little bit more into, you know, what does the future look like? You know, let's fast forward 2040. How do you see our future with food and sovereignty? Are we going to go back to everyone having a backyard and growing their own food? Is it going to be more like share economy? What does the successful future of the food movement look like for you and growers and farmers?
I think the localization of food is going to be really important in that space. So we take away some of the powers which are driven by profitability and, again, food as a commodity. People growing their own food. I mean, at this point, and we need some creative caveat on what we're talking about here. We're talking about westernized food systems. Most of the world still is fed by a local farmer. So I'm very much speaking to the westernized, commodified food system. What does it look like in the future? And if we do dream up a beautiful future, I think very much so it's people engaged in growing their own food, a localized and very accessible food system that's grown subject to seasonality. I think people coming back and engaging in seasonality, we're missing out on those rhythms. And again, connection to nature. We miss out on the rhythms of nature when we just go into a controlled environment supermarket and purchase whatever the hell we think we want, subject to our whims and our needs. When we engage back with nature and to those rhythms and those seasons, which I've consciously done to re-engage with that, it's been, even for me, a challenge because I want to go out and cook whatever the hell I want. Mm-hmm. It's like, not today. Let's cook with what's in season. So going to the farmer's market is a really good indicator of what is in season. And when we stop living in our convenience space and go back to a seasonal space, then you start to look forward to those seasons again. You start to really embrace and acknowledge and uphold that seasonal eating pattern. So with winter coming on and the cooler weather coming on, we've got all those brassicas coming back up here. We can grow broccoli, we can grow cauliflowers, it's so exciting to come back into that beautiful archaic space of seasonal eating. I might have forgotten the question you asked to start with, Ray.
Well, good. I think you painted a great picture of like what the future looks like. For me, the seasonality eating as well, it's such a hard one to do because everything's available on the shelves. You don't know where it's been shipped from. But I grew up in that household, traditional Italian backyard operation. You only grew what was in season. You ate that. What you wanted to keep, you would have to preserve or blanch and freeze for later on. And, very much been, connected with those cycles, even planting to the moon cycles. Like to me, that was my normal upbringing. Now, some people go, oh, that's woo-woo crazy stuff. It's like, who cares? Like, let's just make sure that we're growing good food. And it kind of makes sense that, the moon controls gravity and our water tables and this tide. And if it plays such a big part on that, then why wouldn't it help certain seeds germinate or, things like that. So I, don't rule anything out, but be open to it all. And just, for some it will, for some it won't. But, having that connectivity of growing your own food and being able to experience that in your own backyard, I think is a magical place. Do you think supermarkets will scale down and there's a lot more like farmers markets and grocery stores? And do you think the way that we buy food, maybe it's not by the kilo anymore, it's by its nutrient density? Do you see signals like that coming through?
Without a doubt. I think there's already works and conversations in Australia about looking at what, certification, like what, maybe we got that wrong. Maybe it's not so much about process anymore, it's about the outcomes, and those outcomes are nutrient density, biodiversity, water cycle health, carbon cycle health, all these measures, so it's more output-based than process-based. Process-based means we become a bit dogmatic about the methodologies, and there's controlling elements and bodies that can sit above that and dictate terms for farmers. So yes, in the future, maybe how we measure what we eat is by a nutrient density, and some of that. And this brings me to the point of, regen ag might be, and probably is, ancient futures, looking at the past, because what we're doing is not inventing anything. We're just re-engaging with how we grew food for eons. Wow. How Indigenous people existed on land in harmony for eons. But what we can bring to the table is some healthy tech. I'm not seeing robotic AI as healthy tech. I'm seeing it nutrient density calculation and readings, which are some of the things in the works at the moment. Can you imagine going to a supermarket and having the ability to go, this isn't nutrient dense, why would I buy that? But I'll buy that because it comes from a farm that appreciates, and there's an economic potential around access to market and better better outcomes for farmers that are growing nutrient-dense food. So maybe some of that healthy tech is part of our dreaming, the future we want to dream up with food. Again, I agree with the potentiality of reimagining how we look at our food and how we the discernment we utilize to buy our food.
A lot of these certifications, and I don't know, there's always this debate about certification, verification. Do we want it? Do we not? We've got podcast episodes about this. We don't want to make the same mistake as what some of the previous movements have done. But I think people need to have like their North Star, whether it be that, the nutrition table on the back of the products has to change, where it shows the organic soil matter of what that food was grown in. And then, that was 0.5%. This is 6%. I want to buy this food because it was grown in 6% soil food, organic soil. So maybe changing things like that. And that's why, QR codes, the ability to verify and bring that innovation. I agree, having AI and bots, planting and doing food and vertical gardens with water and hydroponics, like it's good to look at, but sky farms and all that, I'm just not sure if that's the right ag tech that I want to see in the future as a growing system, but more something that's connected to the ground and the rhythms of the earth, and being able to quickly scan and get a nutrient density profile. So all exciting stuff. Blair, are you ready to become the voice of the soil?
I will do my best. I will listen as much as I can and just speak from whatever comes through.
Excellent. Well, you are now embodied the soil and you have become its voice. What would you say to all of us on planet Earth?
Come back in relationship with me. Stop trying to control me, because I am here to help you and support you. And all I want is relationship.
Beautiful. Relationship, come back to me, be reconnected. All amazing stuff, Blair. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and the soil lovers today. If anyone wants to hang out with you more, which I know they will, how can they get a hold of you and Farmers Footprint and hang out with you more?
So we have all the usual socials up and running. Our Australian website is farmersfootprint.org.au. Feel free to join the journey, sign up for subscription. Our handle on Instagram is Farmers Footprint Australia. Please come and share your voice, be active in the community, and watch this space. We'll be releasing as we put the pedal to the metal. We'll be releasing some content. We'll be sharing stories, and we'll be building a community, and we want that to be really engaged. So please, this is my invitation to you guys, is to come on board. We need to do this collectively, and I look forward to engaging and collaborating with you, Ray, and the amazing work you guys are doing, because we need to do it together. This isn't a Farmer's Footprint. We're here to tell the story, but we need everyone to be engaged and be supportive, and I look forward to what we can do together in the future.
Amazing. Well, soil lovers, watch this space, and I'll be watching it too. I can't wait to see your impact reel. And you've dropped that there's some good content in there, and we don't know who's going to be featured, but I can't wait to see it. And we will share that out if you're a soil lover and you follow along. And all the links that Blair mentioned will always be around the video or the show notes to this podcast. Well, Blair, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story of Farmers Footprint and, the amazing work that you're doing. I agree. There is no competition. We're all working together, and the rising tide will only make this a much more magical place to hang out. So I'm really excited to follow along what Farmers Footprints does next.
So happy to be walking this journey with you, mate. And I agree, we've just got to break that old paradigm of competition. It's nothing more than collaboration. So hand in hand.
Excellent. Well, soil lovers, until next time, get outside, get dirty, get healthy, and remember, it's about progress, not perfection. I'm Regen Ray. I'll see you next time. Well, soil lovers, that's enough secrets for one episode. I really hope that you enjoyed all the secrets shared during this conversation. But hey, let's not keep it a secret. Please share this podcast around and make sure that you like it and leave us a review, because that really helps spread the secrets of the soil. Until next time, remember, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into your soils.